One of the companies that I think has 10x potential over the next decade or so is Hims and Hers. This is the online pharmacy company, really changing the way that we interact with a lot of pretty common treatments and drugs. So instead of going to a doctor, going to a traditional pharmacy, having to pay high costs, dealing with co-pays and insurance and all that kind of stuff, Hims and Hers is really taking a lot of the pain out of that. They're not traditionally dealing with insurance, but they are making treatment cost effective and providing access to the doctors and people who are going to prescribe what you need to treat the conditions that they're currently treating. And what's attractive about this is there's potential for the company to grow into a bunch of different areas. It's disruptive and taking cost out of the traditional pharmacy business. So all of those very high margins that pharmacies have, the margins that insurance companies have, even the margins that traditional drug makers have, Hims and Hers is using generic products in most cases and can offer them at much lower prices than traditional treatments. So when we get to some of the opportunities the company has to grow that business, lean into things like personalization, something they've talked a lot about, and why this is a company that I think could be much more sustainable long-term than a lot of investors are giving it credit for. The question that I had over the last year or so was the company on an acquisition treadmill where customers are joining and then canceling a few months later, and you were just gonna have to keep acquiring those customers quarter after quarter after quarter? It doesn't appear that's the case. And one of the reasons I think that is because the company is now very, very close to being net income positive over the past year. So I'm gonna give kind of a high level overview of Hims and Hers today and why I am bullish on the company. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. The first thing I wanna start with is the financials. And I'll just put up this chart, which has the trailing 12-month revenue and net income. You can see that almost net income positive. If you just look at the quarterly numbers, Hims and Hers has been profitable for the last 2 quarters, but on a trailing 12-month basis, now negative $2.4 million in net income. So right around that break-even number. But look at that compound annual growth rate of 78% since the June 2021 quarter. That is a phenomenal growth rate for a company that's already doing about $1 billion per year in revenue. And I want to use a recent presentation that they gave as kind of a jumping off point for the differentiation that Hims and Hers has in the market. And this is from May 2024, so just last month that they gave this. We can see that the mission is to help the world feel great through the power of better health. So pretty simple mission. And right now what they're leaning into is sexual health, dermatology, mental health, and weight loss. Just added GLP-1s a few weeks ago. So going to be a big market that they have here. But you can see that there are huge addressable markets, and there are products that they're not yet offering to customers yet. But this is where, if they can build the platform, the connection with doctors who are going to be actually prescribing, the ability to fill those prescriptions in their own pharmacies, the ability to personalize and do all of this at scale, they're going to be able to add a lot more different treatments than what you see here. So that's really the long-term vision, is that this is a platform that becomes much, much bigger and more encompassing over time. But this is the one that I really wanted to hold on because this highlights a lot of the different strategic advantages that Hims and Hers has. So they want to remove barriers. So how are you doing that? Well, you're accessing an app and you're talking to somebody who is kind of a third party. You don't have to go into a doctor. Doing something online is a little bit more anonymous feeling anyways. So depending on what sort of treatment you're looking for, that could be very, very attractive. So they're removing some of those points of friction for actually getting the treatments that people could potentially want or need, getting better access to better health. So what exactly does that mean? Well, if you're going to a doctor, they're not going to necessarily know everything about you. So on the spectrum of the treatment options, they're going to choose one of those things. Well, in theory, Hims and Hers is going to be able to get to know you a little bit better. How is this treatment working versus that treatment? And they're going to be able to customize those things a little bit better and maybe even be able to mix and match them together to give you access to things that you maybe didn't have access to before. Approachable, personalized, and convenient. So again, the convenience goes to being online, getting it delivered right to your door. Personalized is things like I don't like to take pills. So is there a cream that you can use for a certain treatment? Or is there a gummy? The form factor is actually something that management has talked a lot about as a big differentiator for them. And that's the kind of thing that, man, if you get a prescription from a doctor, they don't typically ask what sort of form factor you would like. Go into your pharmacy, not a question that they're going to ask because they're just going to have that thing filled. So again, Hims & Hers is going to be able to offer more personalization, remove some of those barriers up front so you may actually get treatments that you want and have a better outcome. The thing that this doesn't really highlight, but you can kind of see it in their products here, these are all Hims & Hers products. So they're generic products. So they're actually going to be lower cost as well. So that improves that access to better health potentially for people. And all of the things that they're highlighting here are really showing what they're trying to build. They're trying to abstract away the company that is actually making the drug itself. So Hims & Hers does not make its own drugs. It mixes different things. But they're still going to lean on generic makers to make a lot of these products. So they're going to be white labeling those, putting them in Hims & Hers packaging. But you're abstracting away that supplier. So that is not the point of leverage and the high margin piece of the value chain. So think about all the medical products you could potentially do that with. That could be a massive total addressable market. You're also introducing these products in ways that are attractive to people at Target, at Walgreens, through ambassadors and partnerships. And then they're going to go to directly to you and your website where you can maybe expand that relationship with them to other products. And they continue to add more and more products to the ecosystem. This is just a highlight of just about the last year, a little over a year. You can see hard mints, hair blends, ED, and heart support. So two different products that are mixed, that are combined together, more weight loss products. And then this doesn't even have GLP-1s in it. So these are all ways that Hims & Hers can expand the ecosystem. Maybe you come with them, maybe you come to them for a hair loss treatment, and as they're finding out more about you and they're taking in more information into the ecosystem, they find that there's something else that they could help you treat in the future without, again, that friction of going to a doctor to actually have to get it treated. So this can be like a modern day platform in healthcare. And I think that is ultimately a much, much bigger market than the current market cap for Hims & Hers of about $4.7 billion. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. So the company, I think, is definitely heading in the right direction and building the kind of platform that is going to be very difficult for the traditional healthcare industry to compete with, because there's just fundamentally going to be lower costs when you're breaking down some of these entrenched pieces of the healthcare industry, like the pharmacies, like insurance industry, like even just going to a doctor in a much more complicated way than it can be just connecting with Hims & Hers on an app. And so what we're going to want to see as investors is evidence that the strategy is working and continue to grow. A couple of things that they report is the number of subscribers and the average order value. You can see how those have grown over time, and you want to see both of those numbers consistently grow. I would also add, the other thing I'm looking for is more and more products in the supply chain. And I think there's a massive amount of addressable market for products where the traditional medical ecosystem is just a pain. In my family, we need to get EpiPens once or twice a year. That is a massive, massive pain point and a massive expense. Well, if Hims & Hers can come up with a solution to that, that's $50 a year or $100 a year. That would still be extremely high margin for them and would take a huge pain off of me as a parent. Same thing with something like inhalers, asthma, very, very common. It is a pain to get a prescription for an inhaler. Go fill those. Oh, there's a mistake. Now we need this other component. There's just so many pain points in the healthcare industry that lots of people would be happy to pay a reasonable price for these products, like you see with something like Hims & Hers GLP-1s, with hard mints, with hair loss treatments. I think this is a model for the future of medicine. It may be lower cost to the end user overall, but it's still very high margin for Hims & Hers because they are using these generic products. So I love where the company is headed. Evidence is pointing to continued growth and now turning a profit. So we'll see if that continues. We'll see if things like GLP-1s are going to accelerate that in the future. But I think the opportunity to grow this platform is absolutely tremendous. That's why I'm a shareholder of Hims & Hers and why I'm bullish on the stock long term. But let me know what you think about Hims & Hers in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.